Pessoal, olha a carinha de felicidade desse cara aqui entrevistando esse cara aqui. Já imaginou ficar de frente com o cara que te ensinou tudo de Golang? Inclusive, deixa eu, pagar um sapo aqui, livrinho autografado. Tudo que eu aprendi de Golang, eu aprendi com esse cara. Tudo, 90%. Eu comecei com o livro, depois eu fiz os treinamentos dele. E assim, pra mim é um divisor da minha carreira, né? Inclusive eu conheci ele pessoalmente, a gente teve até a oportunidade, deixa eu mostrar pra vocês aqui, de tomar uma cervejinha junto. E eu agradeci ele pessoalmente pelo impacto que ele teve na minha carreira. Pra mim foi um divisor de águas. A minha carreira antes de eu conhecer o Bill e eu entender Golang a fundo, como ele entende, e depois. Esse papo aqui, eu quis perguntar pra ele. Eu perguntei pra muita gente como que faz pra ser sênior e tal. Como que o Bill aprende? Por que que escolheu Golang pra trabalhar e etc. Então, ó, fica com esse papo. Olha o sorriso desse cara aí. Olha o sorriso desse cara aí. Que ele tá quentíssimo, tá? Assim, ó, olha, pra mim, assim, zerei ali, tá? Zerei. Pronto, já podemos fechar o canal aqui. Não, brincadeira. Beleza, pessoal, mas eu acho que é um conteúdo muito valioso, tá? Pra dividir com vocês aqui. Espero que gostem. E vamos pro conteúdo aqui. Olha aí o homem! Obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
Obrigado pela participação.
Valeu.
Parabéns pela palestra. Obrigado, cara, por ter participado aí. Parabéns pela palestra aí. Parabéns pela palestra de novo. Obrigado, parabéns pela palestra. Obrigado. Pô, parabéns pela tua palestra, cara. Obrigado. Pô, parabéns pela palestra, cara.
Obrigado.
Parabéns pelo teu projeto, Bill. Thank you, it's an honor.
All right, man.
Bill, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank
on
you.
Brazil, on the channel. For who doesn't know Bill, I will speak all in English because I will put the subtitles.
And it's good to practice.
Yeah, right. To who doesn't know Bill yet, Bill, for me, I met Bill first on the book Going Action. And lately, when I was working on United States, I met his training because I was doing some things with Kubernetes. And I think Nick Strogner was giving a training on controllers. I met the platform and then I learned that you have the training also.
Yeah.
And then I saw, wow, I can go more deeper on Golang. So I booked the trainings on that times, and yeah, it's very deep, mate. each video of 5 minutes, I had to spend like 30 thinking about it or writing or practicing.
Do I say in the video you're going to be exhausted at the end of this?
Yeah.
'Cause I say that in the workshops.
Yeah.
And everybody laughs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just wait.
Probably. Yeah, on the beginning of the Kubernetes one, yeah. I have another friend who got the course also, and we are always mocking like the mental models, you know, that you are speaking with us. So Bill, thank you for participating on this video. Bill, what do you think about this conference on Brazil? How is it's different from the Europe or United States? What do you think about it?
So I've been to every conference.
Right.
The only one I have never been to was 1 year they did it in Russia. Other than that, I wish I could have went, but you have to get a visa. I couldn't give up passports. I just couldn't do it. Anyway, I've been to every conference, and I would put this conference in Brazil at the same level as London and USA.
Whoa.
Both in terms
amazing.
of the tech that's being used, the quality of the people,
Awesome.
the feeling of a community here. Yeah, no.
That's great.
And I'm seeing things here that those conferences should be doing as well. So I'm going to be talking to those conference organizers for sure.
Yeah, the guys are doing a great job in Neto and Longa. They are referenced on the community also, so they can know people and meet people and bring them together here. It's a lot of work, we know. They are preparing this, have a year already, and making the guys submitting the papers and it's and everything. Bill, like we see that the conference have a lot of levels of talks. We have things of more basic like error handling, and more complex like yours about Kubernetes and how deep it goes. On general, on market, I know that you have a consulting company and you are hiring like senior engineers. What is the biggest mistakes you see Golang engineers doing all day? Like for what you guys are getting hired to, like to solve which problems?
Like, I don't know if I'd say mistakes people are making, because I don't know if that's fair. But I think what's important for everybody to understand is that Go has been around now for 15 years. And in other words, there are code bases that could be as old as 15 years.
15 years, right.
And there are for sure code bases out there that are 8 to 10 years old. And you have to remember that those code bases were written by Gophers who didn't know as much as we do today.
Yep.
And so what I think a lot of people should be preparing for is getting hired by companies that have these older code bases. And one of the best skills you can have right now is to learn how to not get upset by what you think is a mistake or get upset by what you think is bad code,
Right.
but learn how to gain a mental model of that code quickly, help to keep that code functioning, and then take the opportunities when they come to improve it.
Right.
Because if you can't learn how to do that, you're not going to have any longevity in the business.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of projects where you're building something new from scratch. And plus, you're not even going to get the new project until you prove yourself on the older code bases.
Right.
And so this isn't a skill that has to be learned like any other.
Right. I have a feeling, I don't know if it's correct, I have a feeling that more enterprise companies are adopting Golang. Is that true?
The Go team over the last, I'd say, 4 years has made it its focus to bring the enterprise into the ecosystem.
Right.
The release of generics in 118 is a first major step for that. And I would say that everything they've done over the last 4 years and through COVID has worked. If you had Cameron here, he's got a really cool presentation, which it essentially shows that I think since they've done their work, they've grown Go developers somewhere between 2 and 3 million from where we were, let's say, in 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's very visible. Like when I started Golang just 5 years ago, when you put on LinkedIn like job positions with Golang keyword, I was putting worldwide and I was seeing like 10,000. And nowadays, if you see 70,000, you see a much more number. You will see the community also here growing, like GopherCon from 2016 to today. It's two types of GopherCon, totally different.
But this is thanks to the work the Go team's done over the last, say, 4 years to really focus on the needs of the enterprise companies, right? Because when those developers decide to adopt Go, you even have a lot, right? Now you have that level of opportunity for everybody on the planet, including here in Brazil. That's what you want.
Yeah, and you have a lot of experience. What made you choose Golang in the first place? Why you started with Golang?
Because in 2013, I needed to get off of Windows. We had just started, Ardan was 2 years old, and our first client was on Windows. That's what I knew for like 20-something years. And we had put a bid in to do a project for the city of Miami.
Okay.
And when we finished doing the entire bid process, we realized that Microsoft was going to get more money than we were on the licensing alone.
Right.
And we were like, dude, we're never going to survive as a consultancy if all of our bids are going to be twice as much as everybody else's. So we knew we had to make a move to Linux. We didn't know Linux. And then to move to Linux, you need a programming language. I looked at Ruby, I didn't like it. I looked at Python, I didn't like it. I looked at I can't remember the other one that starts with an E. I didn't like it. Erlang, didn't like it.
Erlang, yeah.
So my business partner finally said, why don't you just look, I found this language called Go, why don't you look at it? And I was already sort of depressed. I was like, maybe I could still write some C#.
Yeah.
So I spent a weekend playing with Go, and then this was like version 1.2, it just got released. And I was like, Ed, we found our programming language, let's go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On the beginning, very early times where you say 2013 is a lot of time, mate. I remember on that times we had around still AngularJS, and yeah, community on that times here at last, people got afraid because kind of they killed the project and they started again. How it was this with Golang? You didn't have this?
I didn't have a choice. Like it wasn't that situation for me. I wasn't going to code in C again. That was for sure. And like I said, all the other languages that were sort of popular on the Linux side, they were the wrong languages. I wasn't going to use an interpreted language.
Yeah.
And again, Erlang was just, it didn't feel right. So it wasn't like, what happens if Go doesn't work out?
Right.
That was never in my head. I had to make it work.
Yeah, it's only one
because
option.
the only option then was to go back to C#.
Cool.
But Go at 1.2 was fully featured for everything I needed.
Yeah.
Anyway, right? Because it comes with such a robust standard library,
Yeah.
that it wasn't ever a problem. The bigger problem was, how do I sneak this in to client work?
Yeah.
Right?
And on the very beginning, probably you didn't have that much support from a community with open source libraries or any other support. Maybe you had to create a lot of things by your own. If you need something else.
See, luckily, the very first projects that I did in 2013-14 were web APIs with Mongo databases. And Gustavo at the time was like an amazing developer. He's still around. He wrote the Mongo packages to talk to Mongo. So Mongo already had a rich API, non-C library-based API, thanks to Gustavo.
Awesome.
So other than one project that needed Kafka, which I can't stand, I always seem to have gotten lucky having something that already existed, either in the standard library, in the ecosystem, or I could build.
Cool.
So I just never hit that wall where it's like, I can't use this.
Yeah. And since you are working from 2013, do you feel that the language is too much different, how you do things from that times from today? What the build from 10 years, from the past 10 years did, and that you think like changed and evolved?
Dude, obviously my understanding of the Go runtime, the mechanical sympathies, and that type of stuff, data semantics, that's evolved. So I think my code's evolved to just be better Go. But it's still the same problems you're sort of solving, right? Like, I can read Go code really well today. I couldn't do that in 2013.
Right.
What's beautiful about Go is this, and I try to tell this to everybody. When you're first starting out, don't get hung up on the idioms. Don't get hung up on trying to be perfect, because even when you're imperfect, Go is still going to allow your program to run pretty darn fast.
Yeah.
And so don't get hung up. Get something to work, because nothing anybody teaches matters if you can't get a program running.
Like, you don't need to do premature optimization because you already have something that
you don't need to do premature readability like, you don't need to do anything until you get a program working.
Right.
As you develop more understanding in any programming language, that first draft of code is just going to be better because you know better.
Right.
And so I see people get hung up because they're like afraid that the code they're writing is bad, but I'm like, it's working, right? Yeah, it's solving a problem, right? That was a major win for you. Yeah. Now, let's sit down and I'll show you some things. But I can't do that until you get it working.
Yeah, right. And take advantage of this. Today I was talking with some principal engineers, some staff engineers, and tech leads. And the question was, how did you learn it to do that? And Bill, like I learned it from a lot of books, and I learned it from you. How Bill learns today, or how Bill from 10 years ago learned to do Golang?
I learned by deciding early on that I was going to share through blogging everything that I was learning, because this was a really interesting opportunity for me at around 40 years old to be a newbie again, right?
Got it.
Right? Because I had done 20-something years already of C# and C and Windows, but suddenly it was a brand new operating system. I knew nothing about Linux. A brand new programming language. Yeah. I mean, I was the true sense of the word newbie. So I said, I'm going to start blogging as somebody, as the person I was that knew nothing. And that's where I started getting a little bit of a name for myself, because people loved the blogs because of how detailed they got, because they didn't assume a certain level of knowledge at the time. That's always been really hard to maintain, because eventually when you learn things, you're like, well, everybody knows that.
Right.
And you have to pull back and say, no, not everybody knows that. So talk about that.
Right.
And so it was that sort of blogging, and then a desire to write more technical blogs and getting feedback, and then wanting to go deeper, which resulted in me learning more and learning more and learning more. If it wasn't for the blogging, I wouldn't be here talking to you today.
Yeah, I already heard someone saying that the best way to learn is by teaching, right? So blogging, it's a way of you teaching, because you have to think about what you're saying.
Well, I'll make it even more. You cannot do a presentation and you cannot talk about something until you've written it first.
Right.
Writing is 10 times harder than speaking.
Perfect.
And so people are like, Billy, you're such a good communicator. I'm like, you feel that way because I spent hours and weeks trying to write this stuff down on paper, which really forces you to handle the right context and the right words at the right time.
Got it.
And then once you do it on paper, it's now you can communicate that, say, verbally. So the mistake a lot of people make is they don't want to put in that time. They just want to get on stage and talk.
Right.
And then they wonder why they're not communicating this information as well as they could.
Right.
That's why. So if you want to be a teacher, if you want to be on stage giving talks, forget about the slide deck. I hate slide decks. People hide behind slide deck. They put too many words on the deck. No, man, like, you know your material, go out there, write some code, run some code, show some code, have confidence in yourself. But for me, it's all about writing.
So the build today on the company, Ardan Labs, build codes.
I work on client projects still, not 40 hours a week because I don't have time for that.
Right.
But anywhere from 10 hours a week. So right now, Prediction Guard is one of our clients, and I put 10 hours a week into that project. I might do some solo coding. I do a lot of code reviews. I get involved in all the technical conversations that are going on there. If you're not doing, you can't teach. I'm sorry. You can't decide I'm going to be a full-time teacher and then try to teach stuff when no experience is coming. Yeah. So the stage talk, even though it's a story from a couple of years ago, if it wasn't for the client work I was doing, that story doesn't exist.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And just about anything I teach has a story component to it because that's why I'm having this conversation.
It's a real problem that you solve it and you wrote about it, and then later you give a talk about it or a course about it.
And then
right?
it still takes months, even after that, to continue to learn from that, because your first understanding of something is never as good after you've thought about it even for 6 months later. And you see something else and you're like, oh, and you're connecting another dot, right?
Yeah.
So it's a constant learning there. But I'll never stop doing some level of work. And when I don't have client work to do, you can go to ardanlabs.ai and see a bunch of AI demos that are running in production. And so if I'm not doing client work, I'm building things as like I said, demos, but I'm doing real engineering for that. It's running in Google Cloud Run. I have to do all the same things, and I'm learning from that. So now I know how all the LLMs work and the AI stuff works and vector databases work.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember I did your course on advanced engineering, and you were saying that I went to the blockchain or crypto event, and
So I'm in Miami. There's a bunch of 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's some like blockchain/crypto event. And I got these kids trying to tell me how the blockchain works. And nothing that they're saying makes any sense, but I don't know the tech. And I walked out of that. This was like, I guess it was, 2019 or something. Because Miami became ground zero for everything. For blockchain crypto. So I walked out of there saying, this is never going to happen to me again. And I spent literally 6 months head down building a reference implementation of a blockchain in Go. Right. Nothing you should put in production, but it works, right? Right. Now I know how decentralized, identification works and more about the distributed nature of that. And I learned stuff that was wild, right? Yeah. And so now you have more class material. Now blockchain has always had a bad name, especially within our Go community. So I got to teach it a couple of times, but nobody ever really wanted to touch it. I don't blame anybody, right?
Go ahead.
But that was that, and now it's all the AI stuff that I'm sort of learning.
Awesome. Bill, just to finish, what type of advice you would give for, in general, for, of course, new people who are starting newly on Go? I see here in Brazil a lot of companies adopting, but people are coming from different languages and carrying old habits for the Golang. Just in short form, what you would say to them to see first when they are migrating for Golang?
I'm gonna raise the question up a little bit higher.
Yeah, please.
You have to invest in yourself. Nobody else is gonna do it. That means you gotta it's not even finding time. I hate that. Everybody has the time to do what they want to do. It's about finding the attention. So you must, you must dedicate attention, then you'll find the time, to educating yourself. But it has to be in the things that you truly have passion for. So in other words, when Kubernetes was first starting to come out in like heavy, like 2015, 16, I had a friend in San Francisco, and every time I went out there, we would go to lunch, and every time we'd go to lunch, she'd say, I got to learn Kubernetes. I got to learn Kubernetes, right? This went on for like well over a year. And finally, one day I stopped her. We were walking. I stopped her and I said, look, if you wanted to learn Kubernetes, you would have learned it already.
Right.
You don't want to learn it. You're feeling pressure to learn it because it's everywhere you go and you feel like you're falling behind. But I need you to stop because this is not anything you truly want to learn, and it's okay.
Got it.
And that never happened again. And so what I want to say to you is you got to be willing to put in the time, put in a little money. If that means you got to save some money, and the attention to learn the things you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about Go, you shouldn't be learning Go.
Right.
Find what that is, then put in that time, and then I promise you good things are going to come from that. From a programming perspective, you always have to find a project. I'm just sorry. That's just the way it is. You got to find a problem to solve. The more personal the problem is, the more fun that's going to be to work on.
Sure. Do you have any final words for our Golang Brazilians engineers?
Yeah. I need you to go over to Ardan Labs, go over to the booth if you're here. If not, go to ardanlabs.com. And if you're super interested in looking for opportunities, remote opportunities with not New York, but US-based companies, and your English is enough where we can have this sort of conversation,
Awesome.
then yeah, I want to meet you. I want to talk to you.
Bill, thank you. It's an honor.
All right, man.
Olha a felicidade desse carinha aqui. Não nega, né? Rapaziada, pra mim foi muito importante. Eu já conheci o Bill dos treinamentos, do livro e etc. Mas falar com ele pessoalmente foi um marco mesmo. Assim, foi muito legal. O cara é muito gente fina. Tomamos uma cervejinha junto, conversamos bastante. Ele ainda se dispôs a dar essa entrevista aqui pro canal. Mesmo sem saber quem eu era, não perguntou o canal, nada. Então, assim, acho que o conteúdo aqui, a conversa foi de extrema valia para nós, tá? Espero que curtam. E se tu curtiu, pô, acho que merece, né? O cara aqui no canal, cadê? Aqui. O cara no canal aí, pô, acho que merece teu like, tua inscrição, tá? Deixa nos comentários o que tu achou da conversa, o que tu achou mais massa, beleza? E vai vir mais conversas por aí. Valeu? Fica ligado. Um abraço.